The clock struck midnight as I stood in the rain, watching my belongings scatter across the manicured lawn of our suburban mansion. David, my stepdad of 15 years, hurled my last suitcase through the doorway with surprising strength for a man his age. "I've had enough of your disrespect," he bellowed, his face red with fury. "Living under my roof, eating my food, while secretly plotting behind my back." Through the doorway, I could see my mother standing at the foot of the grand staircase, arms wrapped around herself, silent as always. Her eyes met mine for a brief moment before she looked away. Some things never changed. "Mom," I called out softly. She flinched but didn't respond. "Don't you dare talk to her." David stepped between us. "You lost that right when you tried to undermine my company. Did you think I wouldn't find out about your meetings with Kingston Tech?" "Ah, so that's what this was about." I kept my face carefully neutral as the rain soaked through my clothes. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me." He waved a crumpled paper in my face. "A photograph of me leaving Kingston Tech's headquarters last week. My own security team caught you. The worthless kid I raised, sneaking around with my biggest competitors." I had to admire his surveillance team's efficiency, though their loyalty was clearly misplaced. If they dug a little deeper, they might have discovered something far more interesting than a simple meeting. "Get out, worthless kid," he shouted, slamming the door. "And don't come crawling back when you're broke and homeless." I stood there, rain dripping down my face, staring at the door my mother couldn't bring herself to open. 15 years of enduring David's emotional abuse, watching him crush my mother's spirit, all while he built his precious tech empire on stolen innovations and broken promises. "No problem," I whispered, pulling out my phone to send a single text. "Execute." Walking to my car, I began counting down in my head. By this time tomorrow, David's perfect world would shatter. He thought catching me at Kingston Tech was his big victory, never realizing it was exactly what I wanted him to see. The real meetings had happened months ago, in private locations, with people far more powerful than Kingston's executives. Every leaked document, every accidentally exposed weakness in his company's infrastructure, every whispered rumor in the right ears, it had all led to this moment. I drove to the Four Seasons, where I'd already booked a suite. My assistant Marcus was waiting in the lobby with a tablet full of updates. "Everything's set for tomorrow," he reported as we rode the elevator. "The board members have all confirmed their attendance for the emergency merger meeting at 9 a.m. They're nervous. They should be." I peeled off my wet jacket. "Has David figured out yet that Kingston Tech was just a distraction?" Marcus shook his head. "No, he's still focused on their supposed hostile takeover attempt. He has no idea about Global Innovations' involvement." Global Innovations, my company, built quietly over the past 5 years under a different name, through shell corporations and careful maneuvering. David had been so convinced I was just another trust fund kid, living off his money, that he never bothered to check where I really went after dropping out of the college he chose for me. "What about Mom?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Still no response to your messages. But the divorce lawyer is ready, and all the documentation about David's creative accounting has been anonymously sent to her." I nodded, walking to the window to look out at the city lights. Mom would need time, but soon she'd be free too. The trust fund I'd set up for her would ensure that. "Get some sleep," I told Marcus. "Tomorrow's going to be interesting." After he left, I changed into dry clothes and opened my laptop. Multiple emails awaited confirmation. Board members, lawyers, accountants, all the pieces falling into place. David's company wasn't just facing a merger, it was about to be systematically dismantled and absorbed. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "I'm sorry." Two simple words, but they meant everything. I replied, "Watch the news tomorrow. Everything changes." Lying in bed, I thought back to all the times David had called me worthless, how he'd manipulated my mother, how he'd built his success on other people's broken dreams. Tomorrow the tables would turn. I set my alarm for 7 a.m. The merger meeting would start at 9, and I wanted to look perfect when I walked into that boardroom. After all, it's not every day you get to buy out your stepdad's company and show him exactly how worthless you are. At precisely 8:45 a.m., I walked into the headquarters of Peterson Technologies, David's precious empire. The security guards, who had thrown me out countless times on David's orders, now stepped aside respectfully. Amazing what owning 60% of company shares could do. Marcus fell into step beside me, tablet ready. David arrived early, trying to rally the board members against the merger. He still thinks it's Kingston Tech. Perfect. I smoothed my tailored black suit, a far cry from the soaked clothes of last night. Status update. Global Innovations legal team is in position. The SEC filing is complete, and the press release is ready to go live at your signal. Also, he hesitated. Your mother is here. That made me pause mid-stride. Here, where? Waiting in the executive lounge. She arrived 10 minutes ago. I checked my watch. Still 12 minutes until the meeting. Take me to her. Mom stood by the window, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. She turned as I entered, and I saw the familiar fear in her eyes, but something else too. Determination. He's been lying, she said without preamble. About everything. I found the documents you sent. I know, I kept my distance, knowing she needed space. That's why today is happening. The company, it's yours, isn't it? Global Innovation. When I nodded, she continued. All those years, when he said you were wasting your life, I was building something. I allowed myself a small smile. Something bigger than he could imagine. Tears welled in her eyes. I should have protected you, should have left him years ago. You can leave him now. Everything's arranged. Lawyers, accounts, security. Before she could respond, Marcus appeared at the door. It's time. Mom straightened her shoulders. I'm coming too. The boardroom fell silent as we entered. David stood at the head of the table, mid-rant, his face turning that familiar shade of purple as he saw us. What is this? He sputtered. Security. They work for me now, I said calmly, taking my seat. Well, technically they work for Global Innovations. Please, continue what you were saying about fighting the hostile takeover. The board members shifted uncomfortably. They'd all received the briefing packets that morning, revealing exactly who owned their company now. Global Innovations. David laughed, but I could hear the uncertainty. What are you talking about? Kingston Tech was never interested in your company. I interrupted. They were just kind enough to play along. A distraction while the real transfer of power happened right under your nose. I nodded to Marcus, who started the presentation. Company charts appeared on the screen, showing the complex web of acquisitions and share purchases that had given Global Innovations, my company, controlling interest in Peterson Technologies. That's impossible, David whispered, sinking into his chair. You're nothing, a dropout, a worthless kid. I finished for him. Amazing what a worthless kid can accomplish, while you're busy underestimating them. The board members were already adapting, like sharks smelling blood in the water. They'd seen the numbers. Global Innovations was younger, more innovative, and far more profitable than Peterson Tech. This is a mistake. David tried one last time, looking at the board. She's just a girl who built a billion-dollar company, while you were busy taking credit for other people's innovations. Mom's voice cut through his protest. Everyone turned to stare at her. I've seen the proof, David. About the patents you stole, the developers you cheated. David's face went from purple to white. Martha, don't. The divorce papers are being delivered to your office as we speak, she continued, her voice growing stronger. Along with copies of everything I found. I allowed myself a moment of pride before returning to business. Now about the merger. First order of business. Leadership changes. You can't fire me, David growled. I built this company. Actually, I can, and you didn't build it, you stole it, piece by piece. I opened my folder, but I'm willing to offer you a choice. Resign quietly with a reasonable severance, or face a very public investigation into your business practices. The board members leaned forward, sensing blood in the water. They'd all received hints about David's questionable practices. Now they were seeing the whole picture. David looked around the table, finding no allies. Even his most loyal supporters were averting their eyes, already calculating their positions in the new regime. This isn't over, he threatened, standing up. It was over the moment you threw me out last night. I smiled, though really it was over years ago. You were just too arrogant to notice. As security escorted him out, Mom touched my hand briefly before following. She had her own battles to fight now, but for the first time, she'd be fighting them with real support. Shall we continue? I addressed the board. We have a company to rebuild. The transition was swift and merciless. Within a week, Peterson Technologies ceased to exist. absorbed completely into global innovation. The stock price soared as news of the leadership change spread, along with whispers of our cutting-edge projects that had been kept under wraps. I stood in David's old office, now mine, watching workers replace the company logo in the lobby below. Mom had moved into a luxury condo I'd arranged, protected by security teams and surrounded by a squad of high-powered divorce attorneys. "The media's having a field day," Marcus reported, handing me the morning papers. The headlines ranged from Tech's new queen to Cinderella CEO, the stepdaughter who conquered Silicon Valley. "Any word from David?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Still holed up in his Hampton house. His lawyers reached out about a settlement." I set down the papers. "Let me guess, he wants to keep his reputation intact. Offers to sign over his remaining shares and step away quietly, in exchange for us burying the evidence of his creative business practices." A knock at the door interrupted us. Mom stood there, looking younger somehow, the perpetual worry lines around her eyes beginning to fade. "The lawyers found more," she said, walking in with a folder. "Hidden accounts, shell companies. He's been siphoning money for years." I took the folder, unsurprised. David's arrogance had always been his weakness. He never bothered covering his tracks properly, convinced no one would dare challenge him. "What do you want to do?" I asked her. This was her battle too. She straightened her shoulders, a new habit I was growing to love. "Everything goes public. He doesn't deserve protection. It'll be messy," I warned. "The press will have questions about how you didn't know. I'll answer them honestly." I was afraid I was blind, but not anymore. She met my eyes. "You showed me what real strength looks like." Marcus cleared his throat. "Speaking of the press, Time magazine wants to do a cover story. The future of tech, focused on global's innovations, not just the takeover drama." "Accept it," I decided. "But make sure they understand. This isn't about revenge. It's about building something better." The next few hours were a blur of meetings, department heads adapting to new protocols, development teams finally unleashed to pursue projects David had deemed too risky, HR handling the flood of resumes from top talent suddenly eager to join us. Late afternoon, I took a break to visit our main development lab. This had always been my real passion, the reason I'd started Global Innovations. David had seen tech as a way to make money. I saw it as a way to change the world. Miss Peterson, a young developer, approached, then caught herself. "Sorry, Miss Chen." I smiled. I'd reverted to my birth name the day after the takeover. "Just Sarah is fine. What have you got?" Her eyes lit up as she led me to her workstation. "The neural interface project you greenlit. We've had a breakthrough." For the next hour, I lost myself in the pure joy of innovation, remembering why I'd fallen in love with technology in the first place. This was what David never understood. Success wasn't just about power or money. It was about creating something meaningful. My phone buzzed. A text from David, the first direct contact since that rainy night. "You won. Name your price." I showed the message to Mom, who joined me in the lab. She read it and laughed, a real free laugh I hadn't heard in years. "He still thinks everything has a price," she said. "Still doesn't understand what this was really about." I typed back a simple response. It was never about winning. It was about building something worthy. Then I blocked his number. The sun was setting when I finally headed home, not to a hotel this time, but to my own penthouse apartment, overlooking the city. The same city where, just days ago, I'd stood in the rain, watching my life seemingly fall apart. Marcus sent one final update. David's lawyers had withdrawn their settlement offer. Instead, the SEC had received an anonymous tip about his financial dealings. The empire he'd built on lies was crumbling brick by brick. "Should we issue a statement?" Marcus asked. "No need," I replied. "Let's focus on tomorrow's neural interface announcement. The past is done." I poured myself a glass of wine and looked out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, David was realizing that his worthless kid had not only survived but thrived. But that wasn't what mattered anymore. What mattered was the future we were building, the innovations we were creating, and the people we were helping along the way. That was worth more than any revenge.